Hello and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I'm Eric with EMS Now. He is Sam Mason, Business and Operations Lead in North America for Luminovo. Sam, it's been a bit. I think last time we spoke was first quarter this year. How are you holding up?
Yeah, I'm doing well. We've had a lot of new changes, a lot of new team members join the group in North America since our first conversation. And yeah, we've got a lot of new features that have also been released. So lots of updates. It's good that we're talking today.
Good, 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 good. Any of those you want to tout before we jump into all the topical stuff? Anything specific? I mean, I know your team's been growing. I saw you guys at Apex earlier this year, met some of the new team. I know you guys are out there in North America, kind of growing the business and representing the brand. How's it going?
Yeah, I mean, from the, I guess, brand awareness, it's definitely starting to take root. We are, instead of introducing ourselves at these events as, an exciting new SaaS platform, people are coming to us that we're recognized. And so I
Right.
think our efforts in 2025 are starting to really pay off. We're certainly becoming well known,
Mhm.
which is just a nice feeling. Shows that positive feedback that that those early efforts were worth it. And then I guess on the product side, we have a bunch of new features that are just continue to make the evolution of electronics supply chain platforms exciting.
Mhm.
So I guess, yeah, I'll give a brief overview of those, and then maybe you'll jump to your questions. But I mean, since talking to you, we've released a risk module. This is a module that allows you to see the health of your overall. You'd upload your components from your own ERP system, type of that sort of thing, and we would effectively enhance that data with risk relevant data. So obsolescence, end of life at a whole inventory level, which is a very useful view. And we've also created a partnership with Silicon Expert in which you can get part change notification and geo risk related information on your own inventory. So we take that fabulous part level data that they provide and we, let's say, bring it together, aggregate it with data that's relevant, like you say per assembly or something like this, to really boil those part level insights into a useful business insight. So yeah, we've got a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah.
New team members joining the group, new features joining the platform. Yeah, lots to talk about.
Yeah, and you touch on something there that I wanted to follow up with, and the geo risk that's inherent in the tool is what I'm going to kind of spin off of here. We're in a volatile time in the world, right? I mean, we see things from, I mean, the Iran war that's ongoing, day to day, we all check the news to see what the current status is and the impact. We also have the memory kind of crisis going on, right? The memory chips and what's happening. Same with tariffs, right? They're on again, off again. What's happening? There's so much kind of disruption that's continually going on. But your customers are needing to build stuff still, right? They need to acquire components. They need to win business and deliver product. So what are you seeing in this regard? How are your clients reacting in this environment?
I guess specifically in response to the memory chip shortage, we're seeing a lot of interest in the ability to surface insights and like supply chain related constraints early. So, so that's the type of question that the risk module intends to answer. Right? I mean, Silicon Expert has a lot of fantastic data at the part level where you could say, okay, now we have a part change notification or we have a
Mhm.
fire at a Taiwanese chip factory. You can have this information, but if you can boil that into how it's relevant to your supply chain, the assemblies you build, now you can start to actually take action on those insights. The other thing that we are building is a monitoring tool. So I kind of relate it. I tongue in cheek, call it the Bloomberg for electronic components. That's of course
Yeah.
Bloomberg's a fantastic proven software
Yeah.
that's deep. So it's very ambitious to call it the Bloomberg
Yeah.
of components. But that's sort of the idea is if you can enable Luminovo customers to capture these relevant insights more quickly, then they can let's say, turn this market volatility into either a non-issue or an opportunity rather than something that just means they can't deliver on time or paying
Right.
300% the cost, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, I do hear the term allocation being, being discussed more openly and more regularly now. And so, these become challenging times for, and again, I'm reflecting the EMS side who's needing to gain all this and try to structure all this and not end up again with warehouses full of everything except for the golden screw that you need to finish the board, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, we went through this several years ago, obviously. And it seems like we're facing kind of similar trying times. But I think people nowadays are doing that with that knowledge, with the experience gained and lessons learned and new tools that are being developed, like what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I actually think back to 2020 and 2021, and it feels like a very similar conversation, right?
Right.
Where I remember back then the story where chips, I think the story that I heard and loved was that Volkswagen couldn't sell their cars because they didn't have the chip that controls the lumbar support in the chair, right? And so you have this $60,000 product that's being held up by what was a 10-cent product. And now you have these real constraints. So it does feel like a bit of a deja vu moment. Luckily, this time we have tools that have had a lot of time to, let's say, reach maturity and to help with this sort of
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a lot of EMS, and I wrote about it this week, actually, a column, looking to kind of diversify their revenue stream by kind of engaging in other services and maybe even developing platforms that they can then sell into their OEM customers. Again, without developing actual product and competing with their customers, but
Mhm.
being of greater service and trying to engage and frankly trying to increase their margins. Um, what do you see in that regard?
Yeah, I see some EMS moving into the realm of, say, a contract manufacturer where they're including other types of components like plastics or let's say, full complex box builds that are beyond, say, the more traditional scope of the EMS from, say,
Hmm.
3 or 5 years ago. And I would say the way that Luminovo is supporting that one is just an increased focus on custom parts. So, of course, quoting electronic components, this is a bread and butter activity for the last 8 years. And the focus for the last, several years, say 2 to 3 years, has been enhancing the capability around custom parts, quoting this quickly, having the quote request and the strategic negotiations workflows work for these custom parts as well. So I see that becoming more and more relevant all the time for EMS, where OEMs are less willing to take just a PCBA and throw a box on top of it. They want the final product completely assembled.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure this isn't everywhere in the industry, but let's say my own anecdote, I'm seeing a little bit of that. Yeah, and I guess the other service that I see, which is a little more theoretical, is or not theoretical, it's less tangible, less physically tangible, is um, going from this. Sorry, let me back up and start that again. The the friction that used to exist on the quoting between an OEM and an EMS, with a tool like Luminovo, we're streamlining that process. Um, so much so that that can actually stop becoming a source of friction and can be actually a benefit, a value add to the OEM, and
Mm.
a cause, a reason to stay for that OEM. When they issue a quote, we provide these DFM checks for the EMS to do a little double check of that material, help handle these constraints, find part alternatives very quickly. And so even that is somewhat becoming a little service that the EMS are providing to the OEMs, is this useful design related check.
Yeah. No, that's a good distinction. I appreciate that. As you were saying that, it made me think about kind of call it specialized software, right? Kind of seems to be, we had a lot of EMS who tried to develop a lot of things themselves inside. We'll talk, that well from the quoting side. Everybody had their Excel spreadsheets and their own solutions and what have you. But it seems like specialized software is becoming more the norm for EMS. so that where they're in bringing from outside, right, those capabilities that really become, I want to say, like what the general solution you guys have, it's a table stakes in the transactions these days between them and their customers, I think. How do you see that?
Yeah, I see specialized software. I think in a number of years it will probably fully replace in-house systems, and I imagine that it'll be a demand side pull that makes that happen. The
Hmm.
OEMs will demand faster, better quotations, service, DFM checks. All of these expectations from the OEM will continue to increase it to the point where it is only you can only match that level of expectation with specialized software. So I would
Hmm.
say we have, if you think about it, I think there are two factors involved. One is the demand side pull from the OEMs, and the other one is like the cost discussion. If you were to start right now and say, okay, I want to build my own home built um, supply chain platform. I want to hire 2 to 3 engineers. I want to hire one project manager. And I expect in 3.5 years, I'll have something that's really specialized that is perfect for my needs. If you were to just do a quick back of the napkin calculation on the cost of that versus saying, you know what, I want a small piece of Luminovo, say 80-person company. We have around 40 engineers who have been working for 8 years. And so the cost of employing your own staff versus the cost of having a small piece of, say, 40 engineers' time over 8 years
Hmm.
is just it's a no brainer,
Yeah.
And so I think both of those forces will make specialized software more and more and more relevant as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm smiling because it sounds like the rationale for outsourcing an EMS in the beginning, which was turn fixed cost into variable cost, right? It's just why have that all in there? And then do you have enough to really command them full time, right?
Mhm.
No, that's an excellent point, I think. So,
Yeah, and I would say if there are people who are looking who are considering building their own home built systems, I would also add one more piece, which is that I talk to a lot of EMS every week, and let's say, there are habits and patterns that form over 2 or 3 decades that cause little blind spots. These little blind spots, which are very easily identified when you compare one EMS to another, because
mm,
they have little different blind spots. But I would say the developing on your own is not only costly, but you're prone to missing these little blind spots that are easily solved as soon as you do a cross comparison between EMS.
that's good. Yeah, I think that collaboration, I mean, the quickest way to add value is through collaboration here, right? I mean, instead of trying to
Yeah.
develop, like you're saying yourself, why not collaborate with somebody like in your case, a Luminova with 40 engineers that you can why not leverage that rather than trying to do it all your own? But I think that
Yeah.
that mindset still persists in some corners of the industry, and you undoubtedly see that as well. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think the the question of will it eventually be the go-to tool for everybody? I think the answer is yes, but for every new organization, the question of when is always a very relevant question. You have some companies, it's very different if you're saying, do I start from scratch now? Versus if you said we're 6 years into an internal project, we're almost done. These are very different conversations, and it's an individual choice for everybody. But I guess I guess my encouragement, anyone who's thinking about or in the process of building internal tools, just take a look at what's out there in the market. What we have might really blow your mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking what I'm talking a lot about with a lot of EMS is in their own customer base with their OEMs, you have kind of the legacy ones who they've been there, but you have a lot of the new tech ones in a lot of these areas who don't have that history or tradition of in-house manufacturing, right? Where they really are leveraging it. And that seems to be really, amplifying their need for speed is it seems more acute than some of the legacy OEMs who've been doing this for decades, right? Do you see anything in that sense?
I haven't thought about that particular one before, but I would agree. For large EMS, they can lean on large requoting contracts with established customer relations. And so the need to respond quickly and competitively on these quotes is it's still relevant for winning new business, right? So every EMS needs to grow and needs to win that new business. But for, like you're saying, for those new EMS, that new tech, that's the lifeblood. They cannot persist without winning new business. So I would say both are important. Um, let me put it, it's important for growth. So for a
Yeah.
company that is established and is willing to coast on requotes, this is possible with current tools.
Yeah.
For the growth, I think it's definitely a big advantage to have the specialized software.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let me, I just want to end on the specialized software side and talk about specifically the space that you guys operate in. And I teased it before. You obviously have competitors, right? There's other ones. There were ones that were there before Luminovo and continue in the market. And you also compete with that, as we've been talking about, those in-house people, right? Those departments that have been there forever and they know how to do it, right? And I know you're
Yep.
probably more aware of that than am I. So, within that environment and more on the competitive side, how do you really differentiate when you go in? Because I'm assuming when you talk to an EMS, they've spoken to some of your competitors as well.
hmm Yeah, I would say most of the conversations that we have is a multi provider, sales process where there's several competitors at the table, and it's really, first of all, it's really good for the industry. For this level of competition to be happening among the service providers is a super healthy ecosystem
Mhm.
for the EMS industry in North America. So for the EMS providers, they want this competition, and it's a race to the best product. And I would say the differentiators that we have are, I'd say we have a really AI infused workflow. So this means that the supporting functions, that let's say the core functions of quoting, which would be to capture the bill of materials and send out requests and to aggregate those offers and to select, those workflows are supported in many softwares. It's
Mhm.
the it's the supporting functions, it's the part alternate identification, it's the BOM health analysis, it's the pricing of custom parts and the quote request workflow. It's all of these supplemental and supporting functions that Luminovo does so well that are differentiators in the market. So I'll give you a couple examples. One would be, let's say, the ability to get instant PCB prices, right? So we don't just service EMS, we also have PCB partners where you could upload your Gerber files. We have AI that extracts those technical parameters from those files and sends those technical parameters out to these board shops so that we can get instant pricing. So that's one example of just a friction that exists
Mhm.
in every quote that Luminovo is able to take away. So I would say there's a number of differentiators, primarily in all of these supporting functions, as we provide a deeply AI enabled workflow.
Yeah. I appreciate your comment when you started there about how this is healthy. This is a healthy ecosystem and it's good for the industry in North America. And, competition is keeps you sharp and keeps you on your toes and it helps you improve your own products as you're going. Even I'm assuming you guys may not win every deal, but each one that you engage with, you're learning something. And you take that forward and are able to incorporate that, I'm assuming, into your pitch and what your product is doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the sale, and you'll notice in the, let's say, in the sales process, you get great questions because you can know when somebody's in having conversation with multiple vendors because they come with extremely specific questions. Hey,
Yeah.
we ran into this hiccup over there. Do you support this specific workflow? And so I would say, in the same way that the expectation of of the OEM to the EMS is increasing in terms of the service provided through the quote, the expectation of the EMS to the service providers, such as Luminovo, is just increasing, and we're very happy to rise to the occasion and to, let's say, set the pace of innovation in this space.
Gotcha. That's a good way to put it. Thanks. So, people who are watching this who say Sam seems to know what he's talking about, how do I engage with him? How do you advise people to engage with Luminovo here in North America?
Well, I'd push you to the website, luminovo.com. In there, you can request a demo. Our sales teams will get a hold of you and schedule some time so you can get to learn the product in more detail. You can also send an email directly to sales@luminovo.com if you wish. But yeah, I would just encourage you to start doing your own research around how to use the supply chain volatility to your advantage rather than being caught unaware or struggling with these crazy price volatilities and fluctuations.
Yeah. Yeah, because even once this one settles, there's another one coming down the pike somewhere, right? It's just the
Yeah,
normal, I think, way of business now within electronics manufacturing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good. Sam, always a pleasure. Hope we can do this again later in the year and get some more insights from you.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. Nice. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye now.